The hum of the Galactic Summit Hall filled the air, a sound like millions of voices blended into one, vibrating with anticipation. Commander Elias Kane stepped off the transport platform, his boots clicking lightly against the polished floor. Around him, towering beings of dozens of species turned their eyes, some curious, most skeptical. He could feel the weight of their scrutiny, the invisible aura of condescension, yet he walked forward without hesitation. Kane had always known that humans were underestimated. That was their edge. The hall stretched endlessly, a gleaming structure of unknown materials that reflected the bright lights in strange, shifting patterns. Alien delegates moved gracefully through the space, their forms strange and elegant. Some had 4 arms, some none at all. Colors of skin and scales he had never seen before shimmered in hues his eyes struggled to identify. Each delegate wore intricate armor or ceremonial robes, clearly designed to display power and sophistication. Kane's uniform, by contrast, was simple, a standard-issue human combat suit, practical, durable, and unadorned. It was built for efficiency, not show. "Ah," said a tall, silver-skinned being with luminous eyes, leaning slightly toward a companion. "The human has arrived, how quaint." His voice was melodic but dripping with mockery. "I suppose he will be amusing." And Kane had seen what human determination could do, even in the most impossible situations. The Galactic Queen, the supreme authority presiding over the summit, floated above the assembly on a small platform. Her form was ethereal, almost translucent, with wings of shimmering energy that radiated an aura of intelligence and command. Her eyes, bright and piercing, scanned the hall, finally resting on Kane. There was no mockery in her gaze, only observation. Kane met her stare and gave a slight nod. She inclined her head in acknowledgement, and he allowed himself a small, imperceptible smile. The announcement of the summit's main event reverberated through the hall. A simulation, a war game, would determine which species had the sharpest minds, the best tactics, and the most capable soldiers. Kane listened as the rules were explained. The aliens would each display their finest technology and most advanced combat strategies, while humans, well, the humans were included as a curiosity. Many delegates whispered openly that the humans would fail before even entering the simulation. Kane's hands rested lightly at his sides. He had faced overwhelming odds before. He had fought in situations where the enemy outnumbered his squad 3-1, where technology was light years ahead of anything humans could produce. And yet, humanity had survived. Often, humanity had won. He carried that quiet confidence with him, knowing that patience, observation, and a willingness to improvise could turn even the direst situations to his advantage. As the teams were called to assemble, Kane found himself paired with representatives of several advanced species. There was Luril, whose crystalline skin reflected light in dazzling patterns. Thoric, a massive, 4-armed brute whose armor was etched with centuries of battle history. And Vantor, a wiry, insected tactician with multiple eyes that seemed to track everything at once. Each looked at Kane with thinly veiled amusement. "Do you even know how to operate a plasma rifle?" Luril asked, her voice tinged with mockery. "Or will we need to hold your hand through the simulation?" The simulation chamber was a massive, dome-shaped arena filled with obstacles, terrain variations, and holographic enemies. It was designed to test creativity as much as combat skill. The chamber hummed with energy as the teams were ushered in. Kane's heart beat steadily, a calm rhythm in contrast to the rapid, excited pulses of the aliens around him. "Remember," the voice of the summit coordinator echoed through the arena, "this is not merely a test of strength. It is a test of intellect, strategy, and adaptability. The species that can think beyond their technology will prevail." Kane observed silently. Every alien had a pattern, a reliance on their superior technology, a predictability born of overconfidence. Humans, he thought, were often underestimated precisely because they did not rely on the same crutches. Kane moved with precision, his actions measured, his decisions deliberate. He avoided unnecessary confrontation, instead studying the holographic enemies' responses to the alien tactics. He noted their weaknesses, their assumptions, and their blind spots. Where others relied on overwhelming firepower, Kane relied on observation, intuition, and improvisation. He rigged the environment to his advantage, turning simple obstacles into traps. The aliens began to notice that something was off. Their initial confidence was eroding. Kane had not fired a single shot yet, but his movements disrupted their rhythm, forcing them to adjust in ways they were not accustomed to. Thorek grunted in frustration, his four arms fumbling as Kane exploited the openings he left. Lurel's crystalline armor shimmered nervously as she realized her attacks were being anticipated and countered. Even Vantor, the insectoid strategist, paused in confusion, recalculating but unable to anticipate the human's next move. "Impressive," Kane said quietly to himself. Not a boast, just an observation. Hours passed, the simulation evolving in complexity. Kane's strategy remained simple but effective. Observe, adapt, improvise, and strike only when the opening was clear. He moved seamlessly through the arena, coordinating with his team in subtle, unspoken ways. The aliens began to respect his efficiency, though grudgingly. Some whispers of admiration, carefully muted to avoid admitting defeat, spread through the arena. By the end of the first phase of the simulation, Kane's team had survived while many others struggled. The aliens' laughter had faded, replaced by uneasy glances and murmurs of uncertainty. Kane remained calm, his expression unreadable. He had not yet revealed the full extent of human capability. This was only the beginning. Outside the arena, the Galactic Queen observed from her elevated position, her eyes tracking every movement. She had heard the whispers, seen the skepticism, and now watched the subtle brilliance of the human soldier. Kane did not rely on superior technology or overwhelming force. He relied on something older, something purer: intelligence, courage, and adaptability. A human strength that no alien had anticipated. As the simulation concluded for the first day, Kane exited the arena, brushing off dust and debris with casual ease. He felt the weight of countless eyes upon him, some still skeptical, some intrigued. He did not gloat, did not boast. Humans were not known for arrogance, they were known for results, and Kane had delivered results that day. Later, in the quiet of the human delegation's quarters, Kane reviewed the day's events. He analyzed the aliens, strategies, their assumptions, and the subtle weaknesses he had discovered. He knew that the next phase would be even more challenging. The aliens would adapt, grow cautious, and perhaps even attempt to underestimate him further. But Kane was ready. Humans thrived under pressure, finding opportunity in adversity. That night, as the summit halls quieted, Kane stood by a window looking out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of species far older and far more technologically advanced than his own. Yet here he was, a single human soldier, demonstrating that the human spirit could stand toe-to-toe with the mightiest civilizations. He allowed himself a small, private smile. Tomorrow would bring greater challenges. Ridicule might turn to resistance, resistance might turn to confrontation. But Kane was ready. Humanity had been underestimated before, and they had always exceeded expectation. And so it would be again. In the silent darkness, Kane's mind was already working, planning, anticipating, preparing. The aliens mocked him now, but soon they would see that there was more to humanity than met the eye. And the Galactic Queen, watching quietly, knew that this human soldier was not just another participant in the summit. He was a revelation in motion, a testament to what humans could achieve when underestimated and overlooked. And in that quiet, vast moment, Kane felt the stirrings of what humans always felt when faced with impossible odds. The thrill of the challenge, the certainty of resilience, and the quiet, unstoppable force of human ingenuity. The next day, the Galactic Summit buzzed with a heightened energy. Word of Commander Elias Kane's performance in the first phase of the simulation had already spread among the delegates. Many were uneasy, realizing that the human soldier they had openly mocked yesterday had done far better than expected. Whispers of disbelief ran through the corridors, though no one dared to voice outright praise. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and now, it seemed, dangerous in ways the aliens did not fully understand. Kane, however, paid little attention to the rumors. He moved through the summit hall with the same calm, measured steps as before. His eyes scanned the area, observing, calculating, anticipating. Every alien he passed seemed to react differently now, some with cautious curiosity, some with barely concealed irritation, and others with thinly veiled respect. He allowed himself no pride. Humans had survived and thrived because they did not get distracted by praise or scorn. They focused on what mattered, the task at hand. The next phase of the simulation was announced. Unlike the first, this one would be more complex, more dangerous. Teams would not simply face holographic enemies. They would navigate unpredictable terrain, adapt to changing conditions, and respond to unexpected crises. Each team's strategic thinking and ability to improvise would be tested to the fullest. As the teams were ushered into the simulation chamber, Kane studied the layout. Massive walls of shifting energy blocked certain paths. Treacherous chasms opened and closed at irregular intervals. Alien technology hummed in the environment, creating zones of unpredictable effects that could hinder movement, distort senses, or even disable certain weapons temporarily. Most species relied heavily on their technology, yet Kane noticed something crucial. The simulation did not penalize creativity, only failure to achieve objectives. This would be his advantage. Kane's team entered the arena. Lurel's crystalline form reflected the shifting lights, casting fragments of color across the walls. Thorek's massive bulk moved deliberately, his eyes scanning for any immediate threat. Vantor's multifaceted gaze darted back and forth, attempting to anticipate every hazard. Kane did not speak at first. Observation was more powerful than words in moments like this. He watched their movements, their patterns, and the assumptions they carried. The simulation began. Instantly, alien teams launched into action, their attacks precise and rehearsed. Kane's team held back, moving carefully through the terrain, avoiding direct engagement until necessary. As predicted, the holographic adversaries and environmental hazards began to test the aliens' reliance on technology. Energy shields failed in areas where Kane anticipated interference. Lurel's crystalline enhancements flickered as she tried to navigate the unpredictable light patterns. Thorek's brute strength became a liability when the floor shifted beneath him, throwing off his balance. Kane moved silently, using minimal energy but maximizing impact. He adjusted the environment to his advantage, stacking debris to create cover, diverting holographic enemies into traps, and using simple mechanical tricks that required no advanced tech. The aliens began to notice, their initial amusement replaced by frustration. They could not predict his next move because it did not follow their conventional logic. Vantor hissed softly, his antennae quivering. He adapts too quickly. Every pattern we set is countered before it can take effect. Kane's team moved as a unit, not through rigid commands but through understanding, trust, and observation. When a sudden energy surge disabled one of Thorek's arms temporarily, Kane quickly rigged a mechanical device to stabilize him, allowing the team to continue. When a path collapsed under Lurel, Kane used his surroundings to create an improvised bridge. The aliens' whispers grew louder. Many began to realize that the human soldier, underestimated and mocked, was orchestrating his team's movements with a precision and foresight that far exceeded expectation. Where technology faltered, Kane thrived. Where arrogance blinded others, his patience and observation created opportunity. In a critical moment, the simulation generated a surprise event. A massive energy vortex threatened to engulf Kane's team. Alien soldiers reacted instinctively, attempting to blast through it with maximum force. Kane paused, assessing the situation. Instead of attacking directly, he noticed a weak point at the edge of the vortex, a momentary lull in energy flow. With calm decisiveness, he directed his team to move in precise formation, using the vortex itself as cover and channeling it to sweep away the holographic enemies. The maneuver worked flawlessly. The vortex became an ally rather than a threat. The alien teams watched in disbelief. Many could not comprehend how a human soldier could turn a dangerous hazard into an advantage with such simple, yet effective thinking. Kane's reputation grew silently, whispers spreading among the delegates that this human was no ordinary combatant. As the simulation progressed, Kane's focus never wavered. He anticipated not only the environmental challenges, but also the tendencies of his alien teammates. When Thorek attempted an aggressive move that might have exposed the team to danger, Kane subtly adjusted his position, guiding him without words. When Lurel hesitated, unsure of the shifting terrain, Kane moved to stabilize her confidence. Even Vantor, the insectoid tactician, found himself reluctantly following Kane's lead, recognizing the human's ability to adapt faster than he could calculate. The culmination of the simulation approached. The final objective required neutralizing a series of holographic command nodes scattered across the arena while avoiding traps that could immobilize or disarm any team member. Alien teams relied on speed and raw power, attempting to overwhelm the system. Kane's approach was different. He split the team strategically, assigning roles based on each member's strengths, while maintaining a network of support that allowed each member to act independently yet remain coordinated. As the team advanced, unexpected hazards appeared. A sudden shift in terrain created a deep chasm, separating Lurel from the others. Kane assessed the situation, calculating the risk. Using a combination of improvised tools and simple physics, he created a safe path across the gap, allowing Lurel to rejoin the team without delay. At every turn, Kane's calm, logical approach allowed the team to progress while alien teams faltered under pressure. The alien delegates could hardly believe what they were witnessing. What they had assumed would be a human struggle had become a display of ingenuity, patience, and adaptability. Kane's every move challenged their preconceived notions about humans, forcing them to reconsider their assumptions. Finally, Kane's team reached the last command node. The node was surrounded by a force field that pulsed in complex patterns, designed to prevent direct access. Alien soldiers hesitated, attempting to brute force the field with energy weapons or rely on elaborate tech-based hacks. Kane stepped forward, observing the pattern, and then used a simple, elegant solution, a reflective panel positioned to redirect the field's energy, creating a momentary gap. He guided his team through the opening, and together they deactivated the final node. The simulation recognized the achievement instantly. Kane's team had succeeded where others had struggled, using brains over brawn, observation over arrogance, and patience over haste. The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then slowly the murmurs began. The Galactic Queen rose slightly, her energy wings shimmering brighter as she observed the human soldier. Her gaze was one of interest, not judgment. She had seen countless species, countless warriors, but Kane's methodical, calm brilliance intrigued her. Outside the chamber, alien delegates were a mixture of stunned silence and reluctant admiration. Lurel looked at Kane, her earlier mockery replaced by respect. Thorek grunted, acknowledging his mistake in underestimating a human. Even Vantor's multiple eyes held a new recognition, an understanding that humans were far more capable than he had believed. Kane, for his part, allowed himself a quiet satisfaction, though he did not gloat. He had played the game, executed his strategy, and proven a point, not for recognition, but because humans had always thrived under pressure. The skill of observation, the power of improvisation, and the courage to act decisively under uncertain conditions were qualities that no alien technology could replicate entirely. That night, Kane reflected quietly in his quarters. He knew the next day would bring even greater challenges. The aliens, humbled by the humans' performance, would adapt. They would expect him to repeat the same strategies to be predictable. Kane smiled faintly. Predictability was never a human weakness. It was an opportunity for those who understood how to exploit it. Humanity had always survived because they could see patterns where others saw chaos, turn weakness into strength, and act decisively when the odds were impossible. Kane embodied that spirit. And tomorrow, as the next phase of the simulation unfolded, he would demonstrate that what humans lacked in raw power or advanced tech, they more than made up for in adaptability, intelligence, and courage. As he gazed out at the stars beyond the summit halls, Kane felt the quiet thrill of anticipation. The galaxy had watched humans struggle and often dismissed them. But humans had a history of defying expectation. They had a history of proving that ingenuity and determination could overcome even the greatest obstacles. And tomorrow, in the heart of the simulation, Kane would remind the galaxy why humans were never to be underestimated. He allowed himself a small, private smile. Let them doubt. Let them mock. The next day, they would see the true power of human thought, action, and courage. And the Galactic Queen, watching quietly from above, knew that this was just the beginning of a revelation that would change the way the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The following day, the simulation entered its most challenging phase yet. Commander Elias Kane could feel the anticipation building as he prepared with his team. The aliens had already witnessed the human soldiers' ability to adapt and improvise, and many were eager to see if it had been a fluke. Kane, however, did not think in terms of flukes. Humans survived and thrived because they learned, observed, and acted with purpose. Today, he intended to prove that human ingenuity was not only consistent, it was unstoppable. The arena was larger this time, sprawling like a miniature landscape of planets. Mountains rose and fell within moments, rivers of simulated lava appeared without warning, and the weather shifted violently from torrential storms to calm, clear skies. Holographic enemies were more numerous and smarter, programmed to respond unpredictably. Most alien delegates relied on overwhelming force and technological advantage, but Kane studied the environment before taking a single step. He observed currents of wind, patterns in the shifting terrain, and the way the holographic enemies responded to certain stimuli. The alien teams immediately rushed forward. Kane's team, however, held back, moving cautiously and communicating through subtle signals and prearranged gestures. Lurel's crystalline skin shimmered as she adjusted her pace, Thorak's massive form moved deliberately, and Vantor's many eyes scanned constantly. Kane's calm presence steadied them all. He knew that patience would be as powerful as strength. As the simulation progressed, the first major obstacle appeared, a chasm too wide to jump, spanned by a fragile bridge of energy that flickered intermittently. Alien teams approached recklessly, relying on their strength or tech to force a crossing. Some fell into the void or triggered traps that immobilized them. Kane, observing carefully, noted a subtle pattern in the energy fluctuations. With a quiet command, he directed his team to step in perfect sequence, balancing weight and timing. Each footfall synchronized with the flickering energy, and one by one, his team crossed safely while the other teams struggled. Vantor hissed in admiration, though he tried to hide it. He calculates differently, the insectoid muttered. Not like us, faster, more precise. Alien soldiers hesitated, relying on sensors that failed to adjust to the changing reflections. Kane led his team forward slowly, noticing that certain angles caused the holographic enemies to misfire or hesitate. Using the natural confusion of the environment, Kane set small traps and distractions, turning the forest into a strategic advantage. As they advanced, a sudden storm erupted. Lightning crackled unpredictably, and wind gusts threatened to sweep the unwary into pitfalls. Alien teams panicked, activating shields and protective gear, yet Kane's team moved as one. They used debris to stabilize themselves, exploited gaps in the storm to advance, and turned the chaotic weather into cover. Every step Kane took was deliberate, every decision measured. It was not brute force that carried them forward, but observation, adaptability, and calm under pressure. Hours passed, and the simulation escalated further. The holographic enemies began using coordinated attacks, designed to exploit weaknesses in strategy and technology. Alien teams relied heavily on predictive algorithms and flashy maneuvers, yet Kane anticipated their moves without complex technology. He relied on human intuition and experience, observing patterns that machines and aliens often missed. When Vantor attempted a clever flanking maneuver, Kane adjusted the team silently, redirecting potential danger while preserving momentum. Lurel, initially hesitant, now moved with confidence, following Kane's subtle guidance. Even Thorak, the brute, learned to trust the human's judgment rather than charging recklessly. The critical moment arrived when the simulation created a massive collapse in the terrain, a canyon opening suddenly, splitting the team from the final objective. Alien teams panicked, attempting to use tech-based solutions to bridge the gap. Kane analyzed quickly. He noticed a series of natural ledges and projections that, if used correctly, could form a safe path. He directed Thorak to anchor a stabilizing device, Lurel to provide support using reflective energy, and Vantor to monitor enemy movements. Step by step, they navigated the precarious path, each movement precise and coordinated. Where alien reliance on technology had failed, human ingenuity prevailed. By now, murmurs had spread through the summit hall. The Galactic Queen watched intently from her elevated position, her eyes bright with interest. Kane's approach was not flashy, but it was undeniably effective. He did not rely on superior firepower or overwhelming numbers. He relied on something older, something fundamentally human: creativity, adaptability, courage, and intelligence. It was a combination the galaxy often underestimated. Finally, Kane's team reached the center of the arena, the control core that powered the simulation. A complex array of holographic locks, force fields, and energy barriers surrounded it. Alien teams attacked directly, using every device, skill, and algorithm at their disposal. Kane paused, studying the structure. It was intricate, yet predictable in its logic. He realized that brute force would only waste time and energy. Instead, he observed the energy pulses, the timing of the field, and the weaknesses created by the system's own patterns. With quiet precision, Kane directed his team. He used reflective panels to redirect energy pulses, improvised tools to trigger hidden mechanisms, and subtle movements to avoid triggering alarms. Lurel adjusted the angles of her crystalline armor to enhance energy reflection, Thorak held stabilizing equipment, and Vantor monitored responses with his multiple eyes. Step by step, node by node, They dismantled the defenses without triggering a single alarm. The alien teams were flabbergasted. How could a single human, using nothing more than observation, coordination, and creativity, overcome obstacles that their superior technology could not? Some whispered, struggling to conceal awe. Others refused to believe it, insisting that the human must have an advantage unknown to them. Kane paid no attention. His focus was total. When the final barrier fell, a silence fell over the arena. The simulation recognized the achievement instantly. Kane's team had succeeded where others struggled. They had overcome the most complex, unpredictable challenges using skill, intelligence, and adaptability. The alien delegates were speechless. Some clenched their fists in frustration, others in reluctant admiration. Kane stood quietly, his posture calm, his expression composed. There was no boast in his demeanor. Humans let actions speak louder than words. The Galactic Queen rose slightly from her platform, energy wings shimmering with interest. "Remarkable," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "The human soldier demonstrates qualities that no technology alone can replicate: ingenuity, adaptability, and courage." The galaxy would do well to remember this demonstration. After the simulation, Kane's team returned to their quarters. Laurel, still catching her breath, turned to him. I underestimated you," she admitted. "I thought humans were simple, but you think differently. You see possibilities where others see limits. We survive by learning, observing, and acting when the moment is right." "I misjudged humans." The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, assuming that other species, advanced technology, long history, and complex systems made them superior. Kane knew the truth. Humans thrived because they could adapt, because they could see solutions others overlooked, because courage and ingenuity could overcome obstacles that technology alone could not. The next day would bring the final phase of the simulation, and with it, the moment when the human soldier would fully reveal the depth of human potential. Alien arrogance, skepticism, and underestimation had carried them this far, but Kane was ready to show that humans could not only compete, they could excel. And in that quiet moment, standing on the balcony overlooking the endless stars, Kane felt the familiar thrill of anticipation. He would face the final challenge not with arrogance, but with the same calm precision that had guided him thus far. The galaxy had mocked humans, doubted humans, and underestimated them. But tomorrow, they would see the full measure of human ingenuity. And the Galactic Queen, observing quietly from above, knew that this human soldier was on the verge of redefining humanity's place in the galaxy. The final day of the simulation arrived with a tension so thick it seemed to press against the walls of the summit hall. Commander Elias Kane walked into the arena with the same quiet confidence he had displayed from the beginning. Alien delegates eyed him warily, many still unsure how to process the human soldier's previous victories. The whispers and laughter from the first day were gone, replaced by cautious curiosity and a sense of unease. Humans, it seemed, were no longer a joke, they were a challenge. The arena itself had changed dramatically. Massive towers, jagged cliffs, and churning rivers of simulated lava created a landscape that was both dangerous and unpredictable. Holographic enemies appeared more intelligent and aggressive than ever, capable of coordinating attacks and exploiting the smallest misstep. Kane's team looked to him, waiting for guidance, yet they did not need to speak. His calm, measured expression conveyed everything. From her elevated platform, the Galactic Queen observed silently. She had seen many warriors across countless worlds, but Kane's performance had intrigued her in a way no other soldier had. Today, she thought, would reveal not just the human soldier's skill, but the true nature of humanity itself. The simulation began. Alien teams immediately charged forward, relying on their superior technology and sheer force. Holographic enemies swarmed with deadly precision, yet Kane held his team back. He knew that patience, observation, and careful planning were more powerful than reckless action. Every step, every gesture was calculated. Every action was part of a larger strategy that the aliens could neither anticipate nor understand. The first challenge was a massive energy field, pulsing unpredictably across the ground. Alien teams activated shields and used brute force to push through, many falling into traps or being temporarily disabled. Kane, however, studied the field for mere moments and identified a subtle pattern in the pulses. He guided his team carefully, moving in precise timing with the fluctuations. One by one, they passed safely, avoiding the traps that claimed other teams. Kane did not boast or gloat. The results were enough. Next came a canyon filled with jagged rocks and sudden eruptions of simulated lava. Alien soldiers panicked, their reliance on technology faltering under the chaotic environment. Kane observed silently. He noticed that certain rocks created stable footing when struck at precise angles, and small shifts in lava flow could be used as cover. Using this knowledge, he led his team across the canyon with flawless coordination, turning what seemed to be an insurmountable obstacle into a manageable path. The aliens' disbelief grew. How could a human soldier consistently overcome challenges that their advanced technology struggled with? Whispers spread throughout the summit hall. Some delegates attempted to dismiss it as luck, but the pattern was undeniable. Kane's calm precision and ability to exploit opportunity were unmatched. The simulation intensified. Holographic enemies adapted, changing their attack patterns and exploiting previous weaknesses. Alien teams scrambled, attempting to recalibrate, but Kane's team moved like a single unit, each member anticipating the next. When Vantor attempted a new maneuver to flank the enemies, Kane subtly adjusted their positioning, neutralizing potential threats without drawing attention to himself. Lurel's crystalline armor deflected energy attacks, Thorek provided strength where needed, and Kane orchestrated everything with quiet efficiency. A sudden twist came when the simulation activated a massive storm, lightning striking unpredictably and winds threatening to sweep the unwary into danger. Alien teams panicked, firing indiscriminately and triggering traps that immobilized them. Kane, however, assessed the situation calmly. He noted the storm's rhythm and guided his team to use the gusts as cover, turning what others saw as chaos into an advantage. Every step was deliberate, every decision precise. The humans moved as one, turning potential disaster into an opportunity. As they advanced, the final objective became clear. A central control core surrounded by layers of holographic defenses, energy barriers, and traps designed to test every possible skill. Alien teams attacked directly, relying on brute force and technology to force their way in. Kane paused, studying the defenses carefully. It was a complex system, but predictable once its patterns were understood. He did not need advanced tools or overwhelming power. He needed observation, patience, and strategy, qualities humans had mastered for millennia. Kane began orchestrating his team's approach. Lurel adjusted angles of reflection using her crystalline armor to redirect energy beams. Thorek stabilized temporary platforms, and Vantor monitored enemy movements. Kane himself moved deliberately, exploiting openings and guiding his team through the defenses. Each node was neutralized with quiet precision, every step calculated to avoid triggering alarms. The aliens watched in disbelief. A single human soldier was achieving what they had assumed required entire fleets and advanced technology. As the last node fell, a moment of silence filled the arena. Kane's team had completed the final objective with flawless execution. The Galactic Queen rose slightly, her energy wings shimmering brightly. "Remarkable," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. The human soldier has demonstrated not only skill and intelligence, but the true essence of adaptability and courage. The galaxy has much to learn from this display. Humans, long underestimated, had proven their worth not through brute strength or advanced machinery, but through ingenuity, observation, and courage. Kane had turned every obstacle into an advantage, every hazard into an opportunity, and every underestimation into a triumph. After the simulation, Kane's team returned to their quarters. Lurel, still catching her breath, approached him. "I misjudged you," she admitted. "I thought humans were weak, simple, but you think differently. You see solutions where others see only danger. Not because of strength, but because of something else, something we don't fully understand." And humanity had earned it in the most undeniable way, by thriving when others assumed they would fail. The summit hall, meanwhile, buzzed with discussion. Delegates who had mocked humanity now debated its capabilities with seriousness. The Galactic Queen called for a formal recognition of Kane's achievements. She spoke of ingenuity, adaptability, and courage, praising the human soldier as an example not only to his species, but to the galaxy as a whole. Kane did not respond verbally. His actions had spoken louder than any words. As he stood quietly in the observation deck, gazing at the stars beyond the summit hall, Kane reflected on the events. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, assuming that superior technology and ancient civilizations made other species inherently superior. Kane knew the truth. Humans survived because they adapted, because they could see opportunities others overlooked, and because courage and ingenuity allowed them to succeed against impossible odds. Tomorrow, Kane would face new challenges beyond the summit. But today, he had proven a point that would resonate across the galaxy. Humans were not weak, not primitive, and not to be underestimated. Alien arrogance had been turned aside not by power alone, but by human resilience, intelligence, and creativity. In the quiet of the night, Kane allowed himself a small smile. Let the galaxy doubt, let them mock, let them assume humans were insignificant. Every assumption was an opportunity for ingenuity, and Kane intended to show that humans could achieve greatness, no matter the challenge. And in that quiet, reflective moment, Kane felt the familiar thrill of anticipation. The galaxy had witnessed human potential, but it had yet to see the full measure. The final recognition, the true revelation of what humans could achieve, was still to come. And when it arrived, the mockery, skepticism, and doubt would be replaced by awe, respect, and perhaps even admiration. Humanity had endured, survived, and thrived against impossible odds for millennia. Kane's victories at the Galactic Summit were a small reflection of a greater truth. Humans were not to be underestimated, and when the moment was right, they could achieve what no one else thought possible. The stars beyond the summit halls twinkled quietly, vast and infinite, and Kane looked at them with quiet determination. Tomorrow, the galaxy would see the human spirit in full force. And when it did, the mockery would end, replaced by the recognition that humans were a force to be reckoned with, a species defined not by their technology, not by their size, but by their ingenuity, courage, and relentless adaptability. The final morning of the Galactic Summit arrived with a tense silence. Commander Elias Kane stood in the hall, his posture calm and steady. Alien delegates moved around him, many still processing the results of the previous days. The humans had survived every test, overcome every obstacle, and outsmarted every challenge. Yet Kane knew the most critical moment had not yet come, the moment when the galaxy would fully recognize what humanity could accomplish. The Galactic Queen rose from her elevated platform. Her energy wings shimmered brighter than ever, casting soft light over the delegates. She spoke with a voice that commanded attention, and the hall fell silent. "Delegates," she began, "we have witnessed remarkable displays of skill, strategy, and courage throughout this summit, yet one soldier stands apart. Commander Elias Kane of the human species has demonstrated qualities that surpass expectation, qualities that we would do well to study and remember." The Queen continued, her voice carrying authority and reverence. "He has shown ingenuity where technology failed, adaptability where others faltered, and courage where many would have given in. Today, we honor not only his achievements but the potential of humanity itself. For too long, this species has been underestimated. Today, that ends." It was not a simulation, but a series of challenges designed to test diplomacy, leadership, and coordination on a massive scale. Kane's team moved forward with the same calm determination as before. Where alien teams relied on established hierarchies and rigid plans, Kane relied on observation, adaptability, and subtle guidance. Every move he made was deliberate, every choice calculated to maximize efficiency and minimize risk. The first challenge involved coordinating relief efforts in a simulated disaster scenario. Alien teams attempted to deploy automated drones and energy-based tools to control the chaos, but their systems often malfunctioned or created unintended consequences. Kane assessed the environment, identified the weaknesses in the setup, and devised a strategy that combined human improvisation with team coordination. He assigned specific tasks to Lurel, Thorek, and Vantor, guiding them with subtle signals that ensured smooth execution. The results were immediate. Where alien teams struggled, Kane's team succeeded. The simulated disaster was contained efficiently, resources were conserved, and no team member was injured. Observers began to whisper, clearly impressed by the humans' ability to manage a complex situation without relying solely on technology. Next came a diplomatic simulation, requiring the teams to negotiate with holographic representatives of alien factions. Kane approached it with the same calm logic he applied in combat. He listened carefully, observed patterns in behavior, and identified points of leverage and mutual benefit. Where alien teams relied on intimidation or elaborate displays of status, Kane relied on clear reasoning, empathy, and concise communication. His proposals were simple, effective, and impossible to ignore. The alien delegates, watching closely, began to murmur among themselves. The humans were not only capable in combat and strategy, they were also clever, adaptable negotiators. Kane's ability to anticipate reactions, to adjust quickly to new information, and to maintain composure under pressure impressed even the most skeptical delegates. Finally, the summit concluded with a display of overall leadership and coordination. Kane's team was tasked with leading a combined effort, including members from multiple alien species, to achieve a complex objective involving logistics, defense, and resource management. The alien teams assumed they would dominate, using technology and sheer power to control the scenario. Kane, however, applied the same principles he had used throughout the summit: observation, adaptability, and quiet guidance. He coordinated movements carefully, anticipated problems before they arose, and used the strengths of every team member efficiently. Where others saw obstacles, Kane saw opportunities. Where others panicked, he remained calm. By the end of the exercise, Kane's team had completed the objective flawlessly, demonstrating not only skill but the human ability to inspire cooperation, adapt to changing conditions, and achieve results against overwhelming odds. The hall erupted in a mix of astonishment and admiration. Alien delegates who had mocked humans now regarded them as equals or even superiors in certain areas. Kane's calm, quiet confidence had reshaped the perception of humanity in the eyes of the galaxy. The Galactic Queen herself descended slightly from her platform, her eyes bright with approval. "Commander Kane," she announced, "you have proven that humans are not to be underestimated. Your ingenuity, courage, and adaptability have set a standard for all species. I hereby declare humanity a respected and valued participant in galactic affairs. Your people will be recognized not for their technology alone, but for their spirit, intelligence, and capacity for greatness." Humans had never relied on recognition, they relied on action. Yet he could see the pride and admiration in his team and the cautious respect in the alien delegates. Humanity had been underestimated, and now the galaxy understood why it never should be again. Delegates from other species approached, offering handshakes, gestures of respect, and quiet acknowledgement. Laurel spoke first, her crystalline form glowing faintly. "I underestimated your species, Commander, but you have shown us that humans are capable of brilliance in ways we never expected. Humans are formidable." The Galactic Queen rose once more, addressing the entire summit. "Let this day be remembered. Humanity has shown that intelligence, adaptability, and courage are as vital as technology and power. Let this be a lesson to all species. Never underestimate those who are willing to learn, observe, and act decisively when it matters most." The mockery that had greeted Kane on the first day had disappeared, replaced by admiration, respect, and a newfound understanding. Humans were no longer the underestimated species, they were a force the galaxy would reckon with. After the formal recognition, Kane returned to the human delegation's quarters. He looked at his team, feeling a quiet pride in their collective effort. "We did well," he said softly. "Not because of strength, not because of technology, but because we adapted, observed, and acted with purpose. That is what humans do. Your method's exceptional. Humanity is stronger than I imagined. I will not forget this." Later, standing on a balcony overlooking the stars, Kane reflected on the events of the summit. The galaxy was vast, filled with species far older and more technologically advanced than humanity. Yet humans had proven themselves not by matching technology, but by surpassing expectation. Where others relied on power and complexity, humans relied on ingenuity, observation, and courage. The Galactic Queen's acknowledgement, the respect of alien delegates, and the successful completion of the simulation were milestones in humanity's journey across the stars. Kane knew that this recognition was not an endpoint, but a beginning. Humans would continue to explore, adapt, and innovate, demonstrating the qualities that had always defined them: resilience, intelligence, and the courage to face the impossible. As the stars stretched endlessly beyond the summit, Kane felt a sense of quiet determination. The galaxy had seen humanity at its best. Humans had been underestimated, mocked, and doubted, yet they had endured and triumphed. The lessons of the summit would echo across worlds, reshaping perceptions of what humans could achieve. In that moment, Kane understood something fundamental. The strength of humanity was not in weapons, not in numbers, not in technology alone. It was in the human spirit, the ability to adapt, to think creatively, to face danger with courage, and to achieve the impossible when circumstances demanded it. The Galactic Queen's words echoed in his mind. Humanity is to be respected, valued, and observed as a species capable of greatness. Kane smiled, knowing that humans had earned their place in the galaxy. They had demonstrated that underestimation was the galaxy's mistake, not theirs. And as he turned from the balcony, Kane felt the quiet thrill of anticipation for the future. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and this was only the beginning. Humanity would continue to rise, to explore, to innovate, and to prove time and again that the human spirit was a force that no challenge, no alien, and no obstacle could suppress. Commander Elias Kane walked back into the hall, side by side with his team, ready to face whatever the galaxy would challenge them with next. The mockery had ended, replaced by respect. Humanity had shown its true strength, and in the quiet determination of a single soldier, the galaxy glimpsed the unstoppable power of an entire species.